Thanks for tuning in to our Crossover Thursday Locked On Bears, Locked On Packers podcast. I'm Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears here with Peter Bukowski from Locked On Bears. And our Crossover Thursday is presented by PrizePicks. Download the app and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Peter, let's start with some Green Bay Packers keys to victory because that feels like the most obvious outcome here. It's a 5.5-point spread. The betting odds are definitely in Green Bay's favor, but Chicago hoping for a fired offensive coordinator bump, but it moved the line.
Hey, it moved the line a whole point.
Oh, golly gee. They can lose by less than
that's a lot.
But where do you see the plan here for Green Bay to keep holding this Bears offense down and try and get some points on a pretty good Bears defense?
I think the key is no turnovers. That's got to be what they're looking at. And last year we talked about Toyotathon Jordan Love. Last year in the second half from week 10 on until that 49ers game when he threw 2 interceptions, he only threw 1 the entire back half of that season. And it came after a game, the Pittsburgh Steelers game, where he threw 2 interceptions in the second half, trying to lead the team back. And to a man, they mentioned that game as the game where everyone on the offense realized we have the potential to be really, really good. Even in a game where Jordan Love threw 2 interceptions. So you go back and you look at Detroit and he's got the pick 6 that just looks so Mickey Mouse. He couldn't see Kirby Joseph. I will continue to contend that it was still a bad play. No one freak out, but it wasn't as bad a play as it looked on the broadcast angle. Cause if you watch the end zone angle, he's like blocked out by Zach Tom. You can't see him. He's little. So that's the key to me is you don't give this offense for the Bears short fields. Don't give them life. Don't give them reason to be excited. And I think that's going to be the key. Now, the dead cat bounce of the OC firing, is this something that you think could be real? I mean, I look at what the Panthers did last year when Thomas Ron was the offensive coordinator, and I go, that seems pretty bad too. So I don't know that you mentioned this on Locked On Sports today earlier in the week. Like, you take the passing game coordinator and elevate him, and the passing game was the problem. So like, what are you really getting that's different? But what do you think for this offense is going to be the key to scoring enough to stay with Green Bay?
Well, you look at what Thomas Brown did last year as the Carolina Panthers offensive coordinator. He did put up 30 on Joe Barry's Green Bay Packers defense.
Joe Barry ain't walking through that door, Lauren.
No, but I don't expect the Bears to come out with some drastically different offense in 4 days with a new offensive coordinator. But I think what Bears fans are looking for from the offense is kind of a vibe change and a little bit of a culture change, where the most damning thing from the end of the Shane Waldron era was at the end of the Patriots game last week. Caleb Williams was sacked 9 times and he was sacked twice in the final 2 minutes. And the last sack of the game, a Patriots player helped Caleb Williams up and dapped him on the helmet. You're not seeing offensive linemen run over and say, "Oh my God, our quarterback just got hit."
Two linemen watched a Patriot do that. They watched.
Yes. They just stood there and watched. And so that feels like an offensive players that's just not bought in. So like for the Bears, if they could just buy in a little bit on offense, I think you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Like we just talked about earlier, the Detroit Lions plan against the Packers in their last game. Throw it 3 yards at a time. Like, just make it easy especially if the Packers are going to blitz the Bears a lot and try and test this offensive line. Get rid of the ball quickly, make it a dink and dunk thing, and try and run the ball and take so much more off of Caleb Williams' plate. And hopefully maybe lean on your defense. They've been holding teams under 20 points pretty much all season. That shouldn't be too tall of a task for an average offense to try and score 20 points in a game. It just has been all season in Chicago.
I wonder if, and I hear you, I wonder if, I think if you're the Packers, what you'd be most worried about is an offensive coordinator change, and the new guy comes in and says, "Hey, Caleb, let's just not worry about it. Let's just go play. Just grip it and rip it." And that in a week, I think it's unlikely, but that in a week, he sort of finds a little bit of his mojo from USC, where he can maybe extend some plays and hit some big ones down the field. I think if, like, let's say the Bears lose this week, let's just say, for instance, and let's say they lose next week. In some ways, am I crazy for thinking that could unlock the best part of Caleb Williams down the stretch? Because then it's like, okay, the pressure of the season, which was always crazy that we're going to make the playoff stuff. I thought that was always way, way too far. But then once that is kind of out the door and you can just play, if you're Caleb Williams, isn't that the best thing for him to just say, "Hey, pressure's off. Let's just go grip it and rip it"? Like, I think if you're the Packers, your worry is he finds a little bit of that mojo this week. You turn the ball over twice, and all of a sudden this is a 20-17 game in the fourth quarter, and you're going, "Hey, how did this happen?" Like that is to me the thing that I would be most worried about from a Packers perspective. Like if they want to make this 3 yards, like if it's going to be screens to DJ Moore all game, I think the Packers would say sign us up for that. And I don't know if DJ Moore would even like that, even though I think he wants to be targeted more. It seems like he still wants Justin Fields to be the quarterback. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, that would be the thing that I'd be most worried about, is just like rekindling some of that, like, F it. Let's just let Jordan Addison down there somewhere from 2 years ago at USC. Like, let's just see if we can run that offense, and chuck it up to Rome Odunze a couple times. He Randy Moss's Keyshawn Nixon. I think that's what I would be most worried about.
Yeah, I can see where when your offense is struggling so poorly, they just aim for volatility, right? Like instead of keeping things safer, just say, okay, go for the high variance and say, screw it, we'll just try everything, because what do we got to lose at this point? I mean, I still feel
that's
like
kind of how Jordan Love plays all the time.
the problem is, like, Matt Eberflus is still the head coach, right? And so like the conservative take it easy edict comes from top down. Like, can your offensive coordinator go behind his back and say, hey, don't worry about what he's saying, let's just let it rip and have fun with it? Like, that's where it gets to be a big concern for me. So Peter, it's a 5.5 point spread as we record this right now. I think we're both expecting a Green Bay Packers victory, but what kind of outcome do you predict from a point spread standpoint?
Yeah, it sounds like the Packers could be getting Marshawn Lloyd back in this offense. At least he'll get a chance to play. Jordan Love is going to be healthy. Josh Myers is going to be healthy. I like what this offense has been able to do. It should have been less of a game last year, the last week of the season, than it was. The Packers dropped 2 touchdowns in that game that turned into field goals. I think this is like 27-17, that kind of thing. I think the Packers win. I think they cover. I think Bears fans are hoping that this is the nadir of their season, and I'm not 100% sure that it is.
The Bears haven't scored 17 points a ton of times this season, so I'm not super confident they can get that high. But I appreciate you.
I first said 24-14. But I think 10 points is the sort of the demarcating line for me. I think, coming off the bye, the Bears coming off their worst loss of the season, the vibes are. I don't think a coordinator changes the vibes. I think the vibes are absolutely. I was going to say a bad word. I think they're really bad right now. And you could put in whatever expletive you thought I was going to use in there, and the answer is probably yes, unfortunately. So yeah, I think that's where we are. I think this is a 10-point game. I think Green Bay starts to get right a little bit. But I'll tell you, Packers fans are when Packer fans get confident in a division rival game, they get nervous. They're like, okay, we should beat this team by 10. That means it's going to be a 1-score game at the end, and we're going to be sweating this out. That is just how I think all fans, frankly, are conditioned to think of this. There's some nervousness about the dead cat bounce of this OC thing. I'm just going to tell you that, especially soccer fans, because it seems to happen all the time in soccer.
But I hate to bring this up because my fans won't want to hear it, but like, haven't the Packers beaten the Bears 10 times in a row, and you're worried that this time is going to be the one that, like, of all the times to not be worried that the Bears are going to win, this feels like the one week where you can say, listen, like, maybe by week 18, the Bears will figure something out and you can be worried. But like, this is as low as the Bears have been in a couple of years right now.
I agree. I don't see it. But I think if you're also the kind of person who's like, momentum is not a thing, then maybe you think, hey, like, this is fine. But I love analytics. I think those people are wrong. I think momentum is a thing. And I also think it's week to week. It's just different. Like, I don't see any evidence that this Bears team is going to play a game where they score 24 points. I don't see any evidence. And so if all I have is vibes in terms of like the reason that they could be better, and I think the vibes are terrible, then that seems like a bad recipe. Like that, I think you're being disingenuous if you think the Bears are, if you would predict the Bears to win. Can they win? Sure. It's the NFL. Anyone can win. Mac Jones almost beat the Vikings last week. But the Packers are better. They're just better. And I think if the Packers are the team we think they are, I said this, the Jaguars game, I said this, the Cardinals game, then you win the game, and you win the game comfortably. And I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I find myself hovering around like 20-13 Green Bay. Like, the Bears are going to touch down a couple field goals. Packers won't, run away.
That would be annoying to Packers fans, is what I'll tell you.
Say that again. That
would be annoying to Packers fans if that was the outcome, unless it's like a late touchdown. Like if it's 20-6 and they score at the end and it's 20-13, then I think that would be okay. But yeah, I think that score would be annoying to Packers fans.
Yeah, no, I was thinking like, yeah, the Packers have a double-digit lead for most of the game. Bears get a field goal or two late to try and bring a little bit closer. But
I accept.
Green Bay is going to be sweating this one for 4 quarters, but the Bears won't completely roll over. They'll care a little bit more.
Is the weather going to be okay? I haven't even looked.
I haven't looked either, but looking at my own forecast around here, I don't expect it to be terrible, but I haven't looked like specifically, down.
It's going to be nice. It's going to be fine.